All right, we've got some big news involving the Ohio State Buckeyes. Of course, there's been a lot of news involving Ohio State this offseason. Of course, last season did not end remotely the way you guys wanted it to, but I think there's been a lot of great moves in the transfer portal. There's been a reloading of talent coming into Columbus, and what's just broke, I think, is just another great sign of it. Let's go into this report. We'll talk about it more on the other side. This is according to ESPN. Former Alabama freshman safety Caleb Downs is transferring to Ohio State, a source told ESPN on Friday night. Downs led the Crimson Tide in total tackles this season with a buck 07 and was the first true freshman in program history to do so. He was a five-star prospect in the 2023 class, ranked number 11 overall, and was a number one safety out of Washington, Georgia. Downs entered the transfer portal on January 17th, and many believed he would end up in Georgia because he's from Georgia. Makes sense. However, he's now in Ohio State. He has 3 years of eligibility remaining and will immediately contribute to a Buckeyes defense that has improved tremendously in year 2 under coordinator Jim Knowles. Downs adds to an already extensive list of impact transfers coming for the Buckeyes with Kansas State quarterback Will Howard, Ole Miss running back Quinshon Judkins, and Alabama center Seth McLaughlin. Folks, this is one of the things that happens when you get so caught up in short-term thinking. You see the Ohio State Buckeyes, they lose to Michigan. They get kind of embarrassed offensively against Missouri, right? There's all these concerns and red flags. You know, you see Michigan win a national title. You're like, Ohio State's done, right? They're buried. They're just not the same as they were anymore. The reality is well-run programs, blue blood programs, well-coached programs, well-funded programs, the best executed administrative staffs, year in and year out. When things go bad, they react, they reload. That's what we see all the time. The big time franchises in the NFL, they do this. This is why the Patriots were good for 2 decades, right? This is why the Alabama Crimson Tide, when they had Nick Saban, never seemed to have to go through a rebuilding year. They just reloaded. This is the same thing with Ohio State. The Michigan story was fantastic. A credit to them. They won a national title. Love that. Great for them in that program. But folks, Ohio State is one of the top 4 programs in the country. This is proof of it. You don't get the best transfers literally in the country. I think Caleb Downs is the best football player, maybe not the most valuable, but the best overall football player in the transfer portal. And they got a guy in Downs, Ohio State did, who was in Alabama, is from Georgia, to go up to Columbus, Ohio. Folks, Ohio State they're a head and shoulders above basically every program not named Georgia right now. That's the reality. That's the way college football has been the past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And we're seeing it. There was some concerns that maybe Ohio State would lose some luster in recruiting in the transfer portal, and that's not the case. They still are the top dog, them in Georgia, in college football in terms of being the most desirable place to go. I think this move is further proof of just that. I think the future continues to be very bright in Columbus. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, Mize. But first, Ohio State fans, in the comment section below, obviously, as this report details, there's been a lot of great impact transfers added to the program. Give us your favorite new Ohio State Buckeye, guy you think will have a big impact in 2024 and beyond, and put them in the comment section below. But Miles, give me your thoughts on this move and just everything with Ohio State right now.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, I think this is fantastic. This is, like you said, I think other teams maybe have capitalized on the Alabama coach Nick Saban leaving situation more widely. They have more quantity of players, but I don't think anyone has gotten quite the quality of players from Alabama that Ohio State has, especially when you look at a guy like Caleb Downs. Absolutely fantastic. One of the best freshman players I think we've ever seen come through Alabama. He's just really a dynamic guy that I think immediately adds a ton to this team, especially defensively. But Nick, you look around, like you said, everyone says, oh, Ohio State this, Ohio State that, sky's falling, yada, yada. Then you look around, well, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh's probably leaving to go to the NFL. Alabama, Nick Saban's already left. They're bleeding players left and right. When you look at the college football landscape, there's one team that's kind of just hanging around, rearing its head up, saying, look, we're ready to take over. The college football landscape as we know it has been very shaky this offseason. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of stuff going on. Someone needs to be able to step up. Yes, Georgia's lurking around the corner, but so is Ohio State. And I think now is the time. Get these big time transfers, because now is the time. This is the year with all of the conferences changing, with big time coaching changes potentially happening. This is the year to start to take over and dominate the new landscape of the 12-team college football playoff. I think Ohio State is really here and they are ready to take over, especially the way they've been getting transfers and recruits lately.
And when you look at the data, just the raw numbers it supports, if you look at the 2024 recruiting class, according to 24/7 Sports, which is my preferred recruiting ranking website, And if you look at the average rating of the recruits and the commits, the signees, Georgia's number one with an average score of 93.58 on a recruit on a scale of 100. Ohio State's number two, 92.94. Right. So they're doing a great job recruiting, getting the quality players. In fact, Ohio State has more 5-star recruits than Georgia right now, the way it currently sits. It just kind of boggles my mind a little bit. And I understand we have a lot of short-term thinking in the media, and I understand, right, we get caught up in the shiny object right in front of us. But Ohio State has quickly and very efficiently had an incredible offseason. And I know quarterback position is a question mark, and it will be a question mark that we have to address in the spring and, of course, over fall camp as well. But in terms of the overall talent level on this roster, they're more talented than Michigan. They're going to be more talented than Alabama. Right, they're going to be more talented than USC, than Oregon, right, than Texas, than Oklahoma, right? Look at all the other blue bloods across the landscape of college football, Florida State, right? You go down the list. I think right now, the way it sits, if you go into the 2024 season, there's Georgia, and then there's Ohio State, and then there's everybody else trying to figure out where they're going to shake out. I think Ohio State's clearly the best team in the Big Ten. I don't think it's even really close at this point. I think it's going to have a big indication of how good of a coach Ryan Day is, making sure he manages this talent effectively. I think he will, because I think obviously the results on the field have generally been very good, but there is some pressure in Day's corner. He's going to have to come out and execute. But I just want to make it very clear for anyone who's followed the news and thought Ohio State is falling, like the sky's falling on them, not the case at all. Transfers, recruits, across the board, they are crushing it. And I think right now, if you ask me right now who's the second best team in the country, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes.